King David!
What it do? What's up?
You're a community leader, innovator, investor. You're a light bringer.
I've been gifted with the ability to be a weaver. I connect people, places, things, and ideas. Like I have a way of seeing things and how they're connected to create this web that just continues to expand out.
Could you share a little bit more about what else, or maybe a few other things that have kind of shaped who you are, how you show up, whether they be places, people, experiences?
We're really focusing on both compassion and competence, because what I'm learning in my experience is that both are required.
And I think there's this interesting play between the path of an entrepreneur versus the path of someone who's in corporate. And of course, there's weaving and so many configurations. But as somebody who's walked both, I'm curious to hear your experience.
Corporate America gave me the balance and competence, being able to really apply that in a way. Social intelligence and all these emotional intelligence, all these things. And my spiritual walk and my spiritual journey has really helped me open back up into my heart space.
King David!
What it do? What's up?
So happy to have you here. You're one of my favorite humans, and so it's such an honor to be talking with you. I want to list some of the ways that I see you in the world. You're a spiritual entrepreneur, soulpreneur. You're a community leader, innovator, investor. You're a light bringer and somebody who I consider a true friend and chosen family. And so it's exciting to get to talk to you about you. And so I'd love for you to start with just a little bit more. Feel free to talk about who you are, what you're up to in the world, and just what are the gifts that you are sharing in this moment.
Well, first of all, chosen family is, I'm going to zero in there, really happy about this chosen family and being chosen family with you. Family pretty much, I zone in there because family pretty much drives everything that I do, inspires everything that I am, and is a major driver for why I do the things that I do. I learned from my family that to whom much is given, much is required. My family has given me everything. Not the wealthiest family in terms of like money and access, but when it comes to values, when it comes to being able to see beyond myself and know how to operate in a unit, and to be loved in a way that I know that most people want to experience but haven't. I am blessed to not know what it feels like to not be loved. I've never not been loved. My family, my parents, my grandparents, cousins, aunts, and uncles, that is a legacy that they blessed me with. To whom much is given, much is required. And so everything that I do is motivated by love, right? Because that's something that I received in abundance growing up. Love to be myself, love to go out and explore, love to just do everything and be everything that has enabled me to be here. And so, legacy. I want to give that love back in a way that legacy has an opportunity to experience it. Whether it's the work I do with Blackfulness, the app that brings culturally relevant mindfulness for stress reduction, or the work I do with the Land Steward Group, or the work that I do as a consultant, the work that anything that as a caregiver, like anything that I do is designed to bring love, and to bring love in a way that establishes legacy 7D, 7 legacy, 7 generations behind me, because there are people who offer that to me. And it is my opportunity to give that back in whatever way Spirit calls me to be it or do it. I've been gifted with the ability to be a weaver. I connect people, places, things, and ideas. Like I have a way of seeing things and how they're connected to create this web that just continues to expand out. That is logical in its form, and it's also relational. So being balanced in my thinking and knowing how to discern, and how to have social intelligence, and to have a heart of compassion that really cares and is curious. Those are things that really help me be whatever Spirit calls me to be. I consider myself to be a spiritual, Swiss Army knife. I know that God, the divine, has endowed me with so many gifts and talents that are not just for my own, I just to self-report that I have these gifts, but they're to be used uh, for me as part of my purpose. And that purpose is to really inspire humanity to their own divinity. And that starts with how I live my own life. So I do and be whatever I'm called because I've been given an amount of love that I could never, ever really quantify. And that love is meant to be used to inspire legacies after me to have access to the same so that they have the freedom and the sovereignty and the agency to be whatever spirit has called them to be.
I'd love to double tap on what you just said about love. What I'm hearing is there's just like so much generosity that's streaming through you. I love this quote by Aristotle that's generosity is the right gift at the right time to the right person. I want to hear you say is that's how you live your life. But could you just say a little bit more about love? I feel like some people who are givers and who want to give love and are love often also get a little tapped and need to, self-sustain. Like how do you balance this like deep desire to give and to share with like really taking care of yourself and balancing your energy?
Yeah, good question. The first thing that comes up for me is I'm gonna go back to family. One of my great grandmothers told me, or she told me directly, and I would hear her say to other people, "Baby, you give from your overflow, not from your essence. You don't give from the very thing that sustains you to live your purpose. You give from a place of abundance, from a place of excess, not from your core." And so, I always had that in the back of my mind. As I developed my relationship with mindfulness, I learned more about self-care and what it means to really love myself, like to prioritize what I feel and what I want. It's important and it matters, regardless of if it's countercultural or not. Like it's me and it's mine. It's what matters. I'm gonna acknowledge it. I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna do the things I enjoy to do. I'm gonna rest. I'm gonna meditate. I'm gonna be in nature. I'm gonna be in solitude. I'm gonna be in community. I'm gonna listen to what my body and my spirit and my essence are saying that they need and they want. I'm gonna give it to them. Right. That's where the discernment comes in. And that gives me an opportunity to really show up, how spirit wants me to show up in terms of this energetic of generosity. When I feel myself starting to deplete, I will, without bones about it and audaciously, get to a place where I can be alone. Where I can, now, another great grandmother told me, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. I can do all of those things, but again, if I'm going to be wanting to give love and share love, I have to also respond in a loving way. And so if I need to take space, a way to show love is to communicate that, right? For me, that is another, like love is the driver of everything, right? It's how I'm in relationships. So even though it's my time, my space, if I'm in community, I don't get to say my. There are other people who depend on me for a certain thing to bring in that space. And when that thing is going to be missing, which is natural for it to happen, then love is the driver to say, "Hey, y'all know I need a little space. I'm gonna be out for a little minute, but I'll be back." Right? So I take care of myself, honor the things that I need that my body and my spirit say that are required, and I actually do my best and intend to be the very thing that I want to give, which is that love, even when I feel like I need to have boundaries or when I need to be alone. Or what I just need. Those are things that help me really lean into my self-care, is just to be away from everything, just to ground and just reconnect and remember, be reminded. But as a social person, that's not always the first thing that people see. And I'm aware of that. So I, in love, anticipate and share and communicate.
I love hearing about your family and I love hearing about legacy and your values. And so I can tell that those are already like really important people who've shaped who you are today. Could you share a little bit more about what else, or maybe a few other things that have kind of shaped who you are, how you show up, whether they be places, people, experiences? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, for sure. Community is really big to me, and I've been a part of a number of different communities. My fraternity, joining the fraternity after I left home and went to college, that was the next large community that I was a part of. And I'm a value liver, and the value of achievement was what I got from that experience. Achievement and service. I've always been about service. Being in a fraternity was a way to serve in many different ways. My spiritual communities, I've always had a connection to a spiritual community across my entire development. And there I learned the importance of devotion and discipline to God and commitment to my own spiritual awakening, to be a channel for God to express. There's also a professional side, right? Where I learn I'm learning that wisdom is the proper application of spiritual principles. And working in the corporate space gave me the opportunity to apply my values in a space and to also learn some ways to be a little more grounded in how I think and how I process my logic. Got some of that in college, of course. The thing about fine tuning and logic in that space was that now I found myself actively decolonizing myself from a way of being in the world. I find myself having to reprogram from being performative. I have to reprogram myself I worked in sales. I worked in new business development and strategic partnerships and medical device. I did strategy in pharma, consumer technology, big tech, publishing, like corporate retail. And so all these different spaces, love is not the first thing that comes up. So I learned a lot of other things that were not necessarily love driven, profit most of the time, and that profit mindset was wrapped in a colonizing way of approaching relationship and people and opportunity. Even with someone who has such a strong value in love and service and giving, being in that space when in Rome, do as the Romans do is a real thing. And that influenced me in how I was able to think logically, but it took me out of my heart space. While being productive, I love achievement and I love excellence and I love these things and I love producing results, and those are natural to who I am. Corporate space, I lost a lot of my compassion. My competence was extremely high. And someone on the outside looking in would not realize that my compassion had gotten lower, but I know my capacity. And the capacity that I was familiar with, I was not operating at that level because I allowed my competence and my programming around with a colonized mind drive my behavior. And so you stretch a rubber band, and eventually it's going to come back to its original form. But I was being stretched out of who I was authentically, and eventually it had to come on back to who I am and who I was, which is why now landing in entrepreneurship has been a decision that feels more aligned with my authenticity and my authentic self. I love and appreciate my experience in corporate America because now I know I can know how to use both logic and compassion and be balanced in the way that I discern and develop a discipline and a devotion. And I am also happy to be landing in the space that I'm in now that feels more expansive, more connected, more unified in this principal way of living around oneness, right? And really focusing on both compassion and competence because what I'm learning in my experience is that both are required. Compassion is important, and competence is also important. Both are necessary for any type of shift, transformation that I might want to see as part of my life purpose. I need to be balanced in both of those. Corporate America gave me the balance and competence and being able to really apply that in a way, and social intelligence and all the emotional intelligence, all these things. And my spiritual walk and my spiritual journey has really helped me open back up into my heart space, which is where I really, I'm my best self as a channel when I'm in my heart space more.
You were talking a little bit about your corporate background, and I can relate to that. I was a corporate consultant for 8 years, worked with a lot of organizations, and I think there's this interesting play between the path of an entrepreneur versus the path of someone who's in corporate. And of course, there's weaving and so many configurations. But as somebody who's walked both, I'm curious to hear your experience, right? Because some corporate folks feel like, oh, maybe I want to go into entrepreneurship, but there's some perils and challenges there. And folks who are in entrepreneurship feel like, whoa, the responsibility that I'm holding and the financial strain, like maybe I should go back into entrepreneurship. So could you just say, like, what's it like to walk that path and why you've chosen what you've chosen?
Yeah. I have been an entrepreneur in my spirit for as long as I can remember. I had grass cutting businesses. Like I used to sell stuff at school. Like I've always been in corporate America. Felt so safe to me, but I didn't realize at what cost I was paying for that perceived safety. Um, I also was fearful. I was fearful at the end of the day. I was fearful about leaving the comforts of corporate America to stand in the life of entrepreneur and to stand in the life as entrepreneur slash spiritual innovator, right? I had a whole picture in my mind about what the struggle looked like for entrepreneurs and how it was horrible for their bodies, and they were, I just had all these stories, and I had stories about spiritual innovators that I saw because none of the people who I saw as spiritual innovators who were talking about prosperity and abundance actually lived it. Right? And so I had a bit of cognitive dissonance that really reinforced my fear. I'm an inquisitive person also. I have a science background, neuroscience, and so spent a lot of time in a laboratory with the scientific method. And so I get very curious. And so I ask myself, like, why are you? What really are you? Like, why are you so scared? Like, why are you afraid? And after some work, what basically came up was that I didn't feel like I was deserving or worthy, and almost not even capable of working outside of that space, because I had ingested the lie that my self worth was based on how I could make somebody in that system happy, or make them proud of me. And that was based on my own feelings of not being deserving or worthy. And so logic taps in for me, and it was okay. Well, David, what have you done to make these people to have this quote unquote approval? Well, you've raised X amount of dollars. You've expanded business in this way. You've streamlined this process. You bata. Okay. Well, how much of that was you, and how much of that was the organizations that you've been a part of? How did they support you or endow you to do the very thing that produced success for them? And when I sat back and thought about it, it wasn't really a lot. They gave me the opportunity. Everything else I brought, which helped me realize one, you are capable, and you are deserving, and the common theme across all of this is that you are bringing who you are. You are the gift. You are the magic. And so if you can be the gift and the magic in this space in corporate America, you can be the gift and the magic in whatever space you choose, whether it's entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship as a spiritual innovator. Because the same way that you were able to raise money and streamline processes and do all these other things that you did in corporate America, you can also do that in this space for yourself in a way that feels good, that honors who you are as a person authentically, and gives you the opportunity to really land in the space that you want to be in, your heart space and your compassion. So whatever you've done in corporate America, you can do it any place, because ultimately I am the gift. I am the magic. It lives within me. Corporate America gave me the space of, yes, I thought about and worried about money, right? Because I got accustomed to a really lavish way of being able to live off of somebody. I had the opportunity to reassess my values. What was it about the things that I was getting from corporate America that really were driving me? And it was not what was on the surface. It wasn't the access to all this capital. It was that money, that lifestyle, that way of living gave me access to freedom in my mind and agency. The same freedom and agency that I get when I choose who I do business with as an entrepreneur. When I choose who I go into strategic partnership, when I'm able to honor my self-care because I don't have the expectations, the horrific expectations that are found in corporate America on me. I can sleep to 7 o'clock and not feel bad about it. Like, those things have more value to me when I get more clear and discern, well, what is it really that is important to me? It's manifesting in this way here, corporate America, but how is that also true and possible over here in this space? And that really helped me. I have to have logic to help me get through things, and logic helps my heart open up a little bit more. I love being in my heart space, but my logic and if I can't find some sense of it here, it's gonna have a hard time making it here. And what I know about spirituality, there is so much logic in it. There is so much make the math in it. right? And so just really understanding who I was, who I am, the value that I bring, what really means the most to me, and how that's transferable from that one space of corporate living over into the space I'm in now, helped me logically be like, oh, okay, well, there is possibility. The moment that I learned or had the feeling of or accepted the possibility of things, it made it so much easier. Not the walk has been difficult. The walk has been rough. The walk has been challenging. There have been tears. I have cried. I have been angry. I've been pissed. I've been upset. I've also been joyful and happy and grateful and thankful. It's a full spectrum. But regardless of all of it, the thing that matters the most to me is that in this space, I get to choose. No one is choosing for me. And that is the, yeah.
It's true power.
That's exactly.
You talked a little about community and how important community has been in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Within community, there's some communities really put an emphasis on rites of passage and initiation. Mm-hmm. Others maybe never even heard of what that is. Could you talk a little bit about what are rites of passage and initiation, and how those shaped you in your life?
So rites of passage and initiation for me are a very ceremonial and community way with accountability to graduate to the next level of a cycle of life, or an introduction into a new way of expanding. My first initiation was my baptism into the Christian faith. In that initiation, in that ritual, there was something that bonded me with the people who had been through it before. There's a level of accountability that goes with that, a level of witnessing and seeing that comes with that, and support and love around something that everyone who's participated in that type of ritual are saying yes to. Specifically for me, my highest and my best, which is not always comfortable. But initiation brings on a level of access to me, or I think to anyone else who goes through a ritual, that it's supposed to be a little bit uncomfortable, because any type of growth or expansion comes with a little bit of discomfort, right? There's a little bit of suffering. I have participated in a fraternal ritual. Again, all the different rituals, going into my faith tradition, each faith transition, there's ritual in becoming a part of that community, whether it's formalized or informal, where the very same things I mentioned earlier about my baptism also hold true. The most present ritual I'll speak is the ritual that you all embrace, you and the squad, with Misha and JoJo and the whole squad, Inertia. That was a ritual that did a couple of things for me. Definitely allowed me to be uncomfortable, because it was designed for me to make a decision. That decision being, are you going to live your life on your purpose with one foot in and one foot out? Or are you going to fully commit, and now is the time that you have to make that decision? I was going through that process within myself, but you all had no idea that that's what was happening when you offered to support me in that way. But it was so important for it to happen the way it happened, for the accountability. For me to take some time to allow other people to see me and to bless me, that is uncomfortable for me. Naturally. And I'm learning to be better with it. It gave me a chance to see how other people see and view me. It's beautiful. And it gave me a chance to really be honest about what's important, who's important, and who I want to be. And how community helps to create safe space for that, and accountability, encouragement, and love, and reminding. And so that is the power and the importance of ritual. It is a strong bond of support, of accountability, of love, of encouragement, and of something that I have in the last 7 years intentionally been striving to live in my own life, which is this principle of Sawubona, the Zulu term that means a deep witnessing. And a deep witnessing by way of participating, having access to participate in each other's lives. And that means there's some discomfort in that. All right? But ritual is a bond that signifies expansion, evolution. And every ritual I've been a part of that embrace, whether it's been you know, the birth of a baby, a marriage. Um, it has helped me become more intentional about being my best self as a participant in someone else's ritual, witnessing, or having ritual for myself. They both require, inspire growth and expansion. I think that's necessary for community to be bonded tight, to share ritual with each other. I keep saying accountability. That's big for me. Self accountability and the ability to speak into my brother and my sister's life as well, with permission.
I'm so with you on the power of rites of passage, of initiation, of ritual, and I think for people who haven't experienced that, it's kind of hard to explain sometimes. We see the aftermath of it all the time when you don't do it. So Can you talk to me a little bit about what happens in a person's development, in a person's journey when they're not initiated, when they don't go through rites of passage, when they're not ritually witnessed in their journey? What happens, particularly even for men, what happens when they miss those moments?
The words that come up for me are chaos and confusion. On the individual level, chaos and confusion in terms of feeling connected to oneself or connected to a broader community. Chaos and confusion around identity, and chaos and confusion around how to honor not only my own humanity or someone else's, my own humanity, or knowing how to honor somebody else's humanity when there is no ritual involved. And there's almost this, as a person who experienced ritual in many different ways, naturally, as the man that I am, I carried a lone wolf syndrome, meaning I'm going to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, who I want to do it with. That is the antithesis to community, even though I was in community, if it makes any sense. So for someone who has not been ritualized in any way, just think about the impact of what that can have. I'm not saying that everybody is like me and goes right into that lone wolf kind of syndrome, but I'm also kind of saying that there are a lot of people who are like me who go off into that lone wolf space where there is responsibility means something different for folk who are not ritualized in my experience. There is none. My responsibility is to myself. Antithesis to community when not balanced with responsibility to self and accountability to community. All right? 100% there's a responsibility to self. There's also there's an accountability to, whether you're socialized, formally or not. If you're existing in this time and space right now, you're a part of somebody's community, whether you've been ritualized or not. And with that comes a certain level of accountability, responsibility, respect, honor. And I think that what I feel, what I see, using present time right now, there are folk who are in seats of position and power who clearly have not been ritualized appropriately with universal principle at the helm. When I say universal principle, I mean love, oneness, connection, harmony, peace, joy, and all those things don't always have to be flowery. They don't always have to feel good. Like there's parts of peace that require some discomfort, right? But in community with someone who's been ritualized, we know how to handle that. There are social mores, there are norms, there are ways of being that establish peace and harmony and joy. It may take a journey to get there, but ultimately that is the destination, right? Those are the destinations. When you're ritualized, when you've been in ritual, when you've experienced ritual, when you've been a part of ritual, there is connection, there is reciprocity, there is community, there is accountability, there's responsibility, and I don't feel like there's a lot of that that's happening in the world that we live in right now, because we have so many examples of where we do not honor, respect each other's humanity on a micro level or meso level or on a macro level. More ritual for me feels like more honoring of people's essence as humans, who actually matter, all of us. Ritual helps to really ground in that.
You were just talking about accountability
in community, and I think that's really interesting, as you kind of brought it up in the realm of rites and rituals. But as leaders, as people who are walking a path, right, on one hand, we want to celebrate people, value them, make them feel seen, particularly when it comes to them being in ritual. And it's also an opportunity to hold up a mirror and help them see that where they can grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you hold that? How do you hold both, the love and the firmness?
So if I can speak to the ritual and community we did for Maz's bachelor party, the intention was to really, in a truthful way, bring visibility to all of the ways that this man is magnificent and wonderful, and to over-index in the things that he's amazing at. And I think that's important. I bring that up because I actually had a mentor in the corporate space. He was a chief strategy officer at an organization. And he did a lot of work around development. And he was like, David, as a leader, it is more likely that I'm going to get the most out of a person by, well, not get the most out of it, but have that person be the best expression of themselves if I lift up what they're amazing at and have them use those things as a superpower. It's less likely that me harping on what someone is not the best at developmentally is going to help move the needle with them. Both are necessary for visibility. Holding both for me is about really playing to a person's strength when you think about it from a developmental human development standpoint. In relationship, I am going to focus on the thing that you are just amazing at, and invite you to place more energy and effort into those spaces. As a leader who loves you, I'm going to reflect back the areas that are where there's greater expansion possible, and maybe even sometimes necessary, and connect back why and how the mirror of what I'm showing you makes the things that you're great at, it makes you even better when you put a little emphasis on where the feedback of being a little more rough has to be. So my thing is, I'm going to do my work first to tie back to how you focusing on your developmental area is going to strengthen the area that you're already strong in. I'm going to do that work for you because I love you, and I don't want to just set your house on fire and just let it burn. Like, I'm going to actually do some pre-work and think through it, ask for guidance from spirit, and how this is going to be helpful, and how can it be helpful, and how can I present it in a way that shows I love you and I care about you, and I've actually given it some thought. And the biggest thing before delivering any information is to seek out and ask and get permission, and to figure out if a person is ready to hear what it is that I want to reflect back. Because me wanting to reflect it back does not mean that that person is in a space where they can actually comprehend what I'm saying. They can hear my communication, but can they comprehend? So just thinking through and asking and intuiting is now the time, and it's just the thing, and it's just the way. Like, I'm gonna do my work, but I'm gonna heavily focus on what you're great at, authentically. And then this is an area that's just needs some improvement. And I'm not gonna say put all your energy into improving that one thing, but I am gonna think through and share with you, with your permission, if you do put a little bit of extra time on this, then this is how it's gonna make you so much better at this thing you're already great at. Right? That's the way for me that you show love. You think in ahead of time, you do your pre-work, and then you bring something polished and clean to the person that you love, that you're leading.
King David, you were talking earlier about being a lone wolf,
Mm-hmm.
and yet also being surrounded by community, which I like to think of as hiding in plain sight. But there's a lot of people around the world who have a similar feeling of isolation, or not feeling understood, or feeling kind of lost in this very confusing, chaotic world. And yet so many people are hungry for community. And I know you've also been a part of a number of communities like you shared. So could you just speak to what is it that you're finding in this community? How were you as a lone wolf able to find your pack? And what can other communities learn from what we're up to here?
the first thing that comes up for me is just the high level of intention and integrity in this community. Intention behind everything. The way that we are in relationship with each other, the way that we are in relationship with ourselves, the programming work that we do. Like, there is so much intention and integrity in how we move that it feels safe to be in this space. I would also offer that this is a space where you are encouraged. People big you up. A lot of communities I've been a part of, there has not necessarily been that because of many different reasons, but this is a place where you are encouraged to shine. Where I am encouraged to shine. I'll speak from the I. And that feels markedly different than a lot of communities I've been a part of, where the lip service and the behavior match around bigging someone up and wanting to see them shine. The other thing I'll share is that I love the amount of, I mention this a lot, there are so many competencies in this space, in this community. There are so many people with so many unique gifts and talents, and we each bring them. And that feels like an experience of excellence and beauty and success, right? And for me, excellence is like, excellence, beauty, and success are values. And at the back of those values are spiritual principles for me. Excellence is an experience of oneness, the principle. Beauty, of course, is an experience of beauty. And then success, for me, the spiritual principle behind success is this principle of prosperity and abundance. And I've experienced an expansion in both by being a part of the Embrace community. This experience of oneness and community, experiencing beautiful people, beautiful programming, beautiful transformation, and then prosperity and abundance, just the being able to be in community with folk and expand how I lean into sharing my own gifts and being in reciprocity with them. I think that's really beautiful, and I haven't always experienced that. And the last thing I'll share is I know that from a standpoint of accountability, the people who I am in community with within Embrace are doing their work. And what I mean by doing their work, that means that behind closed doors, behind the curtain, these folks are engaged in their spiritual practices. They're involved in expansion work. There is service. I can trust that they are actively, consciously involved in the expansion and the evolution of their human and their divine lives. And that makes me feel safe because I know that I am in a community with folk that I am equally yoked with. That matters. And at the core of it, there's fun, there's love, right? And we make it a practice to have a life of practice and to be up in each other's business. Like that is what community is about. It's about being in the weeds with each other and agreeing to be in the weeds, trusting and always assuming positive.
I love what you were just saying about intentionality, and I can tell that that's really important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something really, what is more important than someone's name? As somebody, myself, who's been really intentional, my name, I know your name, King David, is, I love it. And I think some people are like, well, what does that even mean? Why does he get to, there's some confusion. Yeah. So if you could just share a little bit about why that feels like the best way to honor you and name you and where it comes from.
We love clarity, yes. So first of all, David, I love my name David. I'm a junior. My dad is like, he was like my real life version of a superhero. Loved him and loved that I was named after him. As I got older, I learned about King David in the Bible and really appreciated everything about his story, everything about who he was, the dancing, the singing, the serving, the courage, just the repentance, like everything. As a young kid, I really resonated with King David. When I got older, I had experience with the word king in meditation. And it just so happens that my name is David and that I really resonate with King David from the Bible. But the phrase king for me is a reminder of my purpose, and that a king, in the way it was released to me in meditation, is someone who was sent by God to care for God's people. And so King David is less about what somebody else calls me to honor me, because I don't really care about that. But when I reference myself as king, or when I see King David, or when I hear King David, audibly, visibly, in any way, it is a trigger to remind me you are here, sent by God to take care of God's people. And for me, that shifts my behavior. If I'm in a setting and I want to act like a pauper, I remember that that is not how I am to show up as someone who is sent by God to serve God's people. When I feel contrary to doing the kingly thing, being a kingly person, I remember you're here to serve. So king for me is not about a status. It's not about an acquisition of material wealth. It is about an intentional agreement and covenant to be God's servant, to serve God's people. And so whether other people want to call me it or not, I'm concerned. It's for me. It's a reminder for me. It triggers my consciousness and my subconsciousness to be whatever spirit, whatever God calls me to be that, and to trust, like King David, that wherever there is a vision for him to be king, there will 100% be provision, right? I live by that same law. If I'm being called to be a servant to God's people, then there will always be provision for me to be that. And provision is me having the skills, me having the gifts, me having the access, the opportunity, the buy-in, the receptivity from fill in the blank, whatever the case may be, it's already going to be there. I just get to show up in service. So that's what king means.
So I'd say it's like a very simple but profound like invocation for yourself. Each time someone says it, you read it, you hear it, you see it.
It is an incantation. Spell my consciousness, spell my subconscious to remain in a posture of service. And that can look like whatever it's meant to look like. It can be a very powerful stance. It can be a very surrendered way. It can be whatever. I'll know whatever I need to know when I need to know it. And that's the power of my spiritual practices. Like, are to keep me in a space of discernment, to know when I'm hearing God's voice versus my own and my own ego. Like that's for me. A king is in deep study. Because in order to be of service to God, I got to hear God's voice, and God has to be able to hear my voice, and that happens through spiritual practices. So I get to do the things behind closed doors that are not popular, or that are not, King is discipline, king is devotion, king is service. That's what king is. King is not, just, I don't know the word, like living in luxury and that. And there's parts of that, right? I feel like when I serve, serving and reciprocity are proximate. I'm using my gifts, and in your reciprocity, the universe shows up for me. God shows up. So those things that are most often considered king, associated with the king or royalty, not the focus. That shit will come. Focus on my service, and everything else will show up.
Thank you so much, King David. This has been incredible. I somehow love you more.
Thank
you.
Yes!
So good. Thank you for sharing all of your gifts and being a vessel. It's been truly powerful.
Happy to be here and grateful to just grateful, period. With a T on it.
Period.